Munich. Lozenge flags, beautiful architecture, beer, surfers, and... Situated in the south part of Germany, just 50 kilometers north of the Alps, this city played and still plays a crucial role for the German lands. Munich is the capital of the largest German state, Bavaria, a region with a distinct culture gained over centuries of tumultuous history. They even speak their dialect of German that is closer to the Austrian one than to the others spoken in Germany. This city has kind of a big population of more than 1.5 million, but the city is still only the third largest in Germany, after Berlin and Hamburg, and Munich does not consist its own state as the other two, so technically it is a small city, and I'm gonna talk about it anyway. Munich started as a monk settlement in the 8th century. Because of that, over time, when referring to this place, people were using zu den München, which means to the monks, from which derived the name of the future city München in German or Munich in English. Fun fact, Munich in Italian is called Monaco di Baviera, from the Latin monacum, which means monk, and to differentiate it from the OG microstate Monaco, they added di Baviera, or of Bavaria, at the end. So yeah, if you're Italian, one accidental finger slip in the ticket app and you're baking pretzels with sweet mustard instead of gambling your Sicilian villa in Monte Carlo. In any case, the city was founded in 1158 by the Duke of Saxony and Bavaria, Henry the Lion, when he tried to take control over the salt trade over the river Isar and burned down the bridges of the competitor town. At the end of the 12th century, Henry fell from grace with the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and as a consequence, Bavaria and as extension the city of Munich were handed to Otto I Wittelsbach, and in the 30th century, Munich became the residential city of Upper Bavaria. From this moment until 1918, the House of Wittelsbach will rule over Bavaria and Munich with almost no interruptions. Because of that, their white and blue lozenge flag became the official flag of Bavaria, and Munich adopted a flag with the same design, but using the colors of the Holy Roman Empire heraldry, black and yellow, while the coat of arms of the city is just a monk. I wonder why. During their reign, Munich received city status, was provided with fortification walls, was granted salt monopoly by the emperor, and in 5th century, Munich's largest Gothic church, the Frauenkirche, was constructed. At the start of the 16th century, Bavaria was reunited, and Munich became its capital, which pushed the city to become an influential cultural center. The Antiquarium, which houses a vast collection of Greek and Roman antiquities, was built, several big composers and Italian musicians were brought to serve the Munich court, House of Wittelsbach bolstered their prestige by somehow tracing their lineage to classical antiquity, and Munich became an electoral residence of the Holy Roman Empire. The 17th century was a questionable time for the city, mainly because of the 30 Years' War, when Munich was under the occupation of Swedes, unexpectedly, combined with an epidemic of bubonic plague. During these events, almost a quarter of the city's population found themselves without life. When the smell of surströmming, together with the Swede troops, left the city, a Marian column was erected in the central square, which, very conveniently, was named Marienplatz. From that moment, the Virgin Mary was formally recognized as a patron of Bavaria. It's the start of the 19th century, and Napoleon is feeling the urge to vibe-check all the nations on the European continent. After helping with the defeat of the Austrians, Bavaria was elevated from a simple electorate to a whole kingdom, and in 1871 the kingdom became a federated state of the brand new German Empire, also known as the Second Reich. During this period, Munich became the capital of a modernizing kingdom, with the most interesting reform being about regulating the taxes on beer. Breweries and beer taverns were finally being taxed, and the state controlled the quality of beer while limiting the competition. It got to the point where beer was given the status of an essential staple food, because it was nutritious and also because of poor water sanitation, and I really don't know if something can get more German about this city. Even Oktoberfest, an event in Munich that was originally about horse races, was gradually transformed into a race of who can pour more beer inside themselves before exploding. Besides that, the Wittelsbach reigned over the Kingdom of Bavaria until the fall of the Second Reich in 1918, when the state became a part of the Weimar Republic, marking the start of a whole new era in the history of Munich. But there's already too much to digest for one video, so let's stick with what is left on the skyline of the city from the eras of kings and emperors. One of the most emblematic buildings of Munich is Frauenkirche, or the Cathedral of Our Lady, situated on the west of Marienplatz in the city center. But really, there is no point in telling you where the cathedral is. If you're in Munich and want to find it, just look for the tallest structure in the city, because there's literally a law in Munich that forbids erecting structures higher than the towers of Frauenkirche. The highest tower is 98.5 meters and the second is 12 centimeters shorter, and it's really visible that the difference is huge, ginormous even, because 12 centimeters is a lot, girls. The church was built in the 15th century and its construction lasted 20 years, with the tower domes being added only after 36 years. Because of financial problems, the church was decided to be built using bricks instead of stones, as there were no stone quarries nearby Munich. It was built in the Gothic style, but without the typical rich Gothic ornamentations, because they were poor, and although the domes were also planned to be built in the Gothic style, the towers were finished in a more budget-friendly design inspired by the Byzantine architecture, again because they were poor. In the 19th century, there were plans to replace the domes either with neo-Gothic or Renaissance ones, but as you can see, those plans were not executed. The lack of excessive ornaments and the imposing spherical domes give the temple a more monumental and kinda modern look. The interior hall of the cathedral is divided into 3 sections by 2 rows of 11 pillars, each that end in beautiful star-shaped vaults. It contains some cool attractions like the cenotaph of Louis IV, stained glass windows with biblical scenes of the Virgin Mary, a 1:1 scale crucifix, and the most famous one, the Devil's Footprint at the entrance. According to a legend, the church builders sought the devil's support because, I have said, they were poor. The devil accepted to help them on one condition: the church should be built without windows. When the temple was finished and the devil looked inside the church from the entrance, from the point where he stood, he saw that there were no windows because of the intriguing design of the pillars that blocked the view of the windows, and at the time the window at the end was covered by the altar. Seeing that, he started stomping his foot with laughter and left the mark on the floor. But when he understood he was tricked, he manifested himself as the wind furiously raging outside the church. The moral of the story? The devil must have fallen on his head when he was cast out from heaven, cause the blood is stupid as hell, and also he wears size 9 Crocs. On the west side of the city lies a palace comparable by its beauty and grandiosity with the one from Versailles, the Nymphenburg Palace, known and loved for its Baroque architecture and beautiful gardens. Nymphenburg Palace and the surrounding parks were built in the 17th century at the commission of the Prince-Elector Ferdinand Maria to serve as the main summer residence for the rulers of Bavaria. Initially, the palace was composed only of the central pavilion, but at the start of the 18th century 2 more pavilions were added to the north and south sides of the palace, and later on the south part was further extended with a stable, and for the sake of symmetry, an orangery was added to the north part. And finally, the palace was completed with a grand circle of Baroque mansions that served as cavaliers' lodges. The round alley in front of the palace is a big, pleasurable garden designed in the French style, having a landscape that imposes symmetry and order, but it's nowhere near as big and imposing as the main garden behind the palace. This place is huge, just a giant forest at this point, which even a drone shot cannot grasp. Originally, the back garden was also designed in the French style, but was later redone in the English manner, giving up the order and symmetry and trying to create a somewhat idealized version of nature. The palace's park has a whopping area of 229 hectares or 428 football fields. Just imagine how many Walmarts and parking lots you could fit in here. Besides trees and ponds, the park also contains several miniature palaces in Baroque or Rococo styles, which serve trivial purposes, like a tea house, or a bathhouse, or a hunting house. Yep, excessive wealth does indeed disconnect you from reality. Also, the park contains a lot of statues that were unfortunately covered to protect the marble from snow and humidity, but at least the ones from inside are not covered. The interior of the palace is a never-ending festival of excessive tapestries, molding and gold. Some rooms still show their original Baroque decorations, others were later redesigned in neoclassical or Rococo. The palace will really mess with your ADHD with its over-decorated walls, ceilings and furniture. However, of course, there are some pleasant and distinct rooms, like the Marble Hall where Mozart held a rave party in '63, the Gallery of Beauties with portraits of the most beautiful women from the nobility and bourgeoisie of Munich, and this weird room decorated with Egyptian elements and sphincters. Overall, a worthy place to visit. Now, let's bleach our eyes of Rococo by looking at some really beautiful neo-Gothic architecture, the new town hall in the city center. Situated on the north side of Marienplatz, the new hall was erected in the second half of the 19th century, as the old one was getting too small for the growing city. The choice fell upon a neo-Gothic design for two reasons. First, as a reminiscence of the bourgeois heyday during the Gothic period, and secondly, to set an independent architectural look in contrast with the buildings of the royal family, further accentuating the importance of the middle class. When the newly built offices were still not enough, they extended the north side of the hall in 1889, and in 1898 they doubled the size of the town hall by adding the west side of the building together with its tower, which was clearly inspired by the Brussels town hall tower built in the 15th century. The facade facing Marienplatz is richly decorated with statues of kings and electors who ruled Bavaria, gargoyles in the form of grimaces and masks, and these point things. The town hall tower is loved by tourists and locals not only because it's an 85 meters long elongated thing, but also for its mechanical clock that can play 4 different melodies with its 43 bells and the carousel of 32 figures that represent a knight's tournament at the wedding of some Bavarian duke. Just listen how sweet it is. While watching the video, you may have noticed some decorations that looked suspiciously Christmassy. That's because the visit took place on the eve of Advent, and it corresponded with the start of one of the most charming German events, Christkindlesmarkt, a Christmas market that takes place during the 4 weeks of Advent. And because there's clearly no other festival that would be iconic for Munich, and also because I filmed a bunch of material of cute Christmas decorations, I'll tell you about it. As I've said, Christkindlesmarkt is not only typical for Munich, but for the whole German-speaking world. This tradition started in the Holy Roman Empire somewhere in the 40th century, when medieval traders organized sales fairs in many major cities in early December for citizens to stock up on meat and other necessities for winter. Over time, craftsmen such as toy makers were allowed to set up stalls under the name St. Nicholas Market to sell things that children received as Christmas gifts. For those who don't know, St. Nicholas is the precursor of modern Santa Claus. Here in Munich, the first documented St. Nicholas Market took place in 1310, more than 700 years ago. Crisp kitten bark takes place, of course, in the central square, Marienplatz, as well as other open spaces, like in the court of this palace or near the Chinese tower in Englische Garten. There you'll find stalls selling meats, cheese, cute toys and decorations, delicious strudel, gingerbread, wurst and roasted chestnuts, and the even more delicious Glühwein. Over time, this tradition propagated all over the world, and Christmas markets transformed from a local German custom to a common Christmas tradition as important for the holiday spirit as the Christmas tree or the gifts. And I think that's beautiful. So yeah, that would wrap up all the main attractions in Munich related to the time prior to the 19th century. And if you ever heard about some palace called the Residence, right in the center of Munich, which is told to be the biggest city palace in Germany, and that it also contains a beautiful antiquarium full of Renaissance arts, and if you think that this mythical place would have been a great subject where I could have talked more about Wittelsbach dynasty, then congratulations! You've been successfully brainwashed by the big TripAdvisor conspiration, as this place does not, in fact, exist, because if it did, I would have totally visited and talked about it as well, and this has absolutely nothing to do with my poor planning skills and the price of the tickets. Let's conclude this video here. In the next one, we'll talk about Munich in the context of the 20th century and beyond. And boy oh boy, that video will be way more morbid and will contain way less Apfelstrudel and singing toys. I wonder what specific Austrian painter is responsible for that.